Major funding for KPBS Evening Edition has been made possible in part by Bill Howe Family of Companies, providing San Diego with plumbing, heating, and air restoration, flood and remodeling services for over 40 years. Call 1-800-BILL-HOWE or visit billhowe.com. And by the Conrad Trebas Foundation, Darlene Marcos Shiley, and by the following. And by viewers like you. Thank you.
Wildfires continue burning across the West, the largest in Northern California. And tonight, crews from San Diego and Chula Vista are joining the fight. Thanks for joining us. I'm Amita Sharma, in for Maya Trabulsi. The latest numbers from CAL FIRE show the Park Fire has scorched more than 370,000 acres. That's a larger area than the city of Phoenix. At this hour, it is only 12% contained. Meanwhile, millions of Americans across the country will be subjected to extreme heat. Ivan Rodriguez reports.
The Park Fire is the 7th largest wildfire in California history and has destroyed more than 100 structures while still threatening thousands more, according to CAL FIRE. It's the biggest of the more than 100 active wildfires across the U.S. Ongoing evacuations, including a warning for the town of Paradise, which was devastated in 2018 by the Camp Fire, the state's deadliest wildfire, which killed 85 people.
I'm just very emotionally drained, and I'm grateful that we have our house and that we have a lot of neighbors that still have their house standing.
Authorities arrested 42-year-old Ronnie Stout II. He is accused of igniting the Park Fire by pushing a burning car 60 feet into a gully. Meanwhile, firefighters are hoping lighter winds and below-average temperatures will help in the fight to get the blaze under control.
As a faith-based person, you pray a lot. You pray for other people, not just for yourself and what you need.
Also this week, a potentially significant heat wave is expected to develop across the central and southeastern U.S. Already, around 30 million people are under high heat alerts, with temperatures possibly reaching the 90s and 100s. Sunday evening in Tennessee, Dollywood theme park visitors were witness to flooding in the parking lot after a strong thunderstorm, resulting in cars being trapped. Park officials say one person suffered minor injuries. Ivan Rodriguez, KPBS News.
The Chula Vista Fire Department has deployed 14 firefighters to help fight the Park Fire in Northern California.
It's wildland firefighting, so it's a mix of structure defense, which basically they're going to highly threatened neighborhoods and assisting in the protection of those homes from the wildfire threat, as well as direct fire suppression. So they are on the actual fire line, either hand digging some brake line or putting water on the fire to prevent it from spreading.
The current personnel has been on site for the last 2 days and will be deployed for a total of 14 days with a possible extension to 21 days. The San Diego Fire Rescue Department has also sent 8 firefighters to help with the Park Fire. We've seen 2 wildfires spark in San Diego County this past week. The most recent, the Border 65 fire, started yesterday afternoon near Tecate. It's grown to 61 acres and is 50% contained, according to CAL FIRE. The other started near Palomar Mountain Wednesday. The Grove fire is now fully contained, but it did temporarily cause some evacuations.
Looking ahead to tonight, we're dropping down to a low of 65. Now we are still talking about some low clouds near the coast. That's really going to be the name of the game here over these next few days, especially late in the day and early in the day. So just give yourself some extra time. Take it easy on the roads. You may run into some lowered visibility. We are tracking, though, a warming trend later on this week, and when we could see more thunderstorms. We'll have the latest coming up.
Among all of former President Donald Trump's border policies, forced separations of migrant families was the most controversial. President Biden vowed to end the separations when he took office, but KPBS border reporter Gustavo Soli says they're still happening.
Under Trump's zero-tolerance policy, children were deliberately separated from parents who crossed the border illegally.
Cruelty was the point of that policy and of those practices.
That is Monica Langarica, one of the authors of a new UCLA report that examines family separations from several angles.
It's simply meant to debunk the myth that all family separation, as a part of border processing began under the Trump administration and then ended when President Biden took office.
The report reveals that although Biden rescinded Trump's policy, family separations happened before Trump took office and still happen today.
Instead, what this report seeks to do is illustrate how family separation is a feature of many long-standing CBP practices and policies that frankly can and should change.
Under Biden, families have been separated after being detained in open-air sites like the ones in Jacumba. In other cases, family members are sent to detention centers in different border cities, or some family members are allowed to enter the country while others are turned away. Part of the problem is the federal government's narrow definition of a family, which is limited to parents or legal guardians and their minor children.
That result in frequent, routine separations among, again, spouses, parents and their young adult children, siblings, grandparents and their grandchildren.
The report says that CBP can avoid family separations with some straightforward changes, like expanding the definition of family units or making sure that all members of a family are either released or detained together. Gustavo Solis, KPBS News.
Today was the first day back to school for thousands of San Ysidro students. Our media partner, KGTV, was out at Ocean View Hill Elementary School this morning just as classes were about to start. Because the school is so close to the border, some students commute from Tijuana. The school has what's called outreach consultants who help students migrate to school every day, as well as outreach ambassadors to help maintain positive mental health.
We want to make sure that we check in with them, that they are able to talk to somebody about the problem before they're able to go back into the classroom to actually learn.
Principal Erica Meza says the focus of this new school year will be to build on their success with English language arts and math. She says 300 new kids are joining their student body this year. As summer comes to an end and back-to-school preparations begin, KPBS health reporter Heidi DeMarco says county health officials are urging parents to consider getting teens vaccinated against HPV.
HPV is a viral infection that can cause 6 types of cancer in both males and females, which is why San Diego public health officials want to see more students vaccinated before they return to school. Dr. Evan Grayboy's research revealed that despite the U.S. goal of 80% adolescent vaccination, the rate has stalled at 63%. However, this wasn't the finding that was most surprising.
Generally speaking, socioeconomically advantaged people have better health care and better health outcomes. But in this situation, adolescents of socioeconomically advantaged families are less likely to initiate the HPV vaccine and less likely to complete the HPV vaccine.
The study found that 65% of socioeconomically advantaged parents did not plan to vaccinate their children, compared with 40% of parents in the disadvantaged group. The reasons for not getting the vaccine also differ. Advantaged parents report safety concerns, while less advantaged parents cite a lack of knowledge or a lack of doctor recommendation. Dr. Eric Hogan co-chairs the Scripps Vaccination Committee. He recommends vaccination starting as early as 9.
HPV virus is something that about 80% of adults will get in their lifetime. That earlier vaccination has a much stronger prevention against these cancers if you get this vaccine earlier.
Hogan says that recent statistics reveal HPV-related head and neck cancers in men now surpass cervical cancer rates in women, highlighting the vaccine's importance for both genders. He says many parents can be hesitant because they associate it with the onset of sexual activity.
It's really not a vaccine of sexual activity. It's a vaccine of cancer prevention.
Although the vaccine isn't required for school, Dr. Hogan believes it should be.
It's been out for 18 years and studied before that for decades, in the study protocols. It's extremely safe. It's time we hit 80% and be done with HPV.
Heidi DeMarco, KPBS News.
The 2024 presidential election is now less than 100 days away. With a new name at the top of the ticket, Democrats are hoping to maintain momentum. Our Washington correspondent Julia Benbrook has the latest.
Former President Donald Trump is reacting to the Harris campaign's momentum with a series of personal attacks.
If a crazy liberal like Kamala Harris gets in, the American dream is dead.
Referring to her as evil and mocking her laugh at a campaign rally over the weekend.
And now that she's in this position, they're trying to make her into a, let's say, Margaret Thatcher. I don't think so. It's not going to happen. Margaret Thatcher didn't laugh like that, did she?
Harris is pushing back, calling Trump's comments wild lies and just plain weird.
Some of what he and his running mate are saying, well, it's just plain weird. I mean, that's the box you put that in, right?
She's not the only Democrat using that word to describe Trump. Several allies and potential VP picks are now using it when talking about the top of the GOP ticket.
These guys are just weird. That's who they are.
It's the weirdest thing. He'll go and like literally hug an American flag. Now, I love the flag, but I mean, it's like weird what he does, right?
The voting process to officially name Harris as the Democratic Party's nominee is expected to begin this week. Voting will be conducted by electronic ballots sent to convention delegates. Reporting in Washington, I'm Julia Benbrook.
I'm Jeff Bennett. Tonight on the NewsHour, Venezuela's ruling party is accused of rigging that country's election to give President Maduro a third term. That's at 7 after Evening Edition on KPBS.
A CNN poll today shows a vast majority of current renters feel the American dream of homeownership is out of reach. And it's no surprise they feel that way. According to Zillow, the average price of a starter home in more than 200 cities is over $1 million. Brian Abel breaks down the data.
We got an affordability crisis across the country.
A staggering statistic. In 237 cities in the United States, it will cost you at least $1 million to own a starter home, according to Zillow, defined as a home in the lowest third of values in that market.
Homes that should be easily accessible to renters trying to get on the lowest rung of the housing ladder.
Nearly half of those cities, 117 of them, are in California alone.
Those are markets close to big job centers on the coasts, near the ocean, near lakes and mountains, right? Markets that tend to attract a lot of people.
Zillow economist Orphe DeFungi says supply and demand is playing a big role in the skyrocketing prices. When mortgage rates doubled back in 2022, competition for smaller homes heated up, pushing up the price. But DeFungi says good news may be on the way for first-time buyers, with more homes for sale, price cuts on the rise, a potential interest rate cut soon, and buyers having more time to weigh options as homes stay on the market longer. His advice? Talk to a real estate agent.
Having an agent find the homes within the locality, the area that will fit within your budget is really the best way to tackle the home buying process today.
In Washington, Brian Abel reporting.
A San Diego Little League team takes the field this week at the Intermediate League World Series in Livermore. KPBS reporter Andrew Dyer has more from Scripps Ranch.
Players and families from Scripps Ranch Little League are rooting for their all-star team as it takes the field Monday. Little League baseball teams throughout the county have found success on the national stage several times. This year, it's the Intermediate Division kids from Scripps Ranch who are representing the West region at the Intermediate World Series in Livermore, California. Scripps Ranch Little League President-elect Ron Madrid says this isn't their first team to make the World Series.
Oh, it's a huge deal for Scripps Ranch Little League. We actually had this happen about 6 years ago with the same division, the Intermediate Division. But, you know, for these kids, it's their first time, obviously, and it's a once-in-a-lifetime thing.
Little League divisions are separated by age. Next month's more well-known World Series in Pennsylvania features teams that consist mostly of 12-year-olds. The Intermediate Division is for players up to age 13. Madrid says it took years of hard work to get this team where it's at.
So we've had a lot of kids who have, been continuously playing Little League throughout the years, coming up through the younger divisions and into the intermediate division. And it's great coaching as well. We've got a lot of great coaching, a lot of good support from the schools and the community, and their dedication to playing baseball and playing high level of baseball.
The Intermediate World Series runs through Sunday and is streaming on ESPN+. Andrew Dyer, KPBS News.
Scripps Ranch beat Georgia this afternoon 12-9. They will play again tomorrow. The Paris Olympic Games are officially underway, and an athlete from Encinitas is bringing home a silver medal. Jagger Eaton took second place in the men's street skateboarding competition today. It comes after he took home a bronze medal at the Tokyo Games. Before today's competition, he opened up about his return to the Games and what drives him to compete against the best in the world.
I started having dreams competing against the best in the world, I think right when I made the X Games, like right when I was 11. It was so surreal, and it wasn't about like beating any of my idols. Like that wasn't what it was about. It was about being in that same environment as them. I'm sitting there like as a little kid being like, I just want to drop, like I just want to go, you know what I mean? And when I saw that and I was on that same stage with them, at the time I never knew if I was going to be able to compete with them, but I knew that's exactly where I wanted to be. Winning that bronze changed my life, changed my life forever. That confidence, getting that medal and performing under that pressure, it's something you carry with you. And, knowing I can overcome that, knowing I can push that adversity under immense pressure is what every athlete wants to know. I did take some time after Tokyo just because, after one of those events, you're kind of just exhausted mentally, physically. But every time I take time off the board, I always realize just how much I love it. Changes in my life since Tokyo has just been getting more disciplined mentally and physically, controlling my environment much more. Also just managing my distractions. I'm not doing social media anymore. I'm kind of out of the loop on a lot of main topics, but it's just controlling my sanity. I never was really a big drinker, but I don't drink, I don't smoke. I'm not around people who have nasty habits. I really just try to stay around people who I find very inspiring and people who I find motivating. I'm really engulfed in my friendships. Really just building on relationships. It's not necessarily what I don't do, it's what I try to do, what I want to be. You know what I mean? The friend that I want to be, the family that I want to be. I think that's a big part of it.
The Olympic triathlon swimming practice was canceled for a second straight day because of poor water quality in the River Seine. Paris experienced heavy rain during the weekend, and pollution in the river typically jumps after heavy rain. Organizers say they are confident the race will still go ahead as planned. As athletes around the world try to go for the gold, there's another thing they'll have to compete against: high temperatures. Mandy Gaither has more on how they will handle extreme heat.
Soaring temperatures, scorching sun. The 2024 Olympics is expected to be one of the hottest ever, and Team USA will feel the heat as they go for the gold.
With extreme heat, obviously the body, it's trying to cool itself down, so you end up sweating a lot. You lose a tremendous amount of fluid.
Sarah Wick works with athletes at Ohio State University's Jamison Crane Sports Medicine Institute. Olympian or not, she says any sport that exposes you to heat for long periods can cause the loss of several pounds in water weight, which can make a person vulnerable to heat-related illness. That's why staying hydrated is critical.
They sip on water all day. If it's something that they're training twice a day, they may use a sports drink.
Wick says sports drinks can help replenish electrolytes, but diet can also help. Foods like watermelon are comprised mostly of water and can aid hydration. Wick also recommends athletes eat saltier foods when excessively sweating.
Like your pretzels, pickles, those kind of things that have more sodium in them. And then we'll ask them actually use a salt shaker on their food so they can help to keep themselves hydrated.
To check hydration levels, Wick says to take a look at your urine. The color is a good indicator.
If your urine color is clear, transparent, it might be a light lemonade color, but that lets us know that you're hydrated.
For Health Minute, I'm Mandy Gaither.
Wick says athletes should also find ways to cool down after prolonged exercise in extreme heat. She says anyone working out in the heat should also monitor caffeine and alcohol intake, which can lead to dehydration. We're following the latest out of the Paris Games on our website, kpbs.org. You'll find an updated medal count, times of events, and a map where you can see which athletes call San Diego County home. Just click on the Paris Olympics tab.
For areas further inland, you're going to have an early week comfortable stretch here, at least over the next few days, which is good news. Next on our list for our weather headlines, though, that lake week increase in humidity and warmth will return again to these areas, as well as those chances for thunderstorms, as we're going to be tapping into some monsoonal moisture later on this week. Now tonight, we're dropping down to lows in the 50s and 60s right there along the coast, staying relatively steady into the low to mid 60s. A little bit further east, Ramona, you're down to 53, Mount Laguna 64, and while Borrego Springs, you're dropping down to a low of 76. Now, as we do head throughout our Tuesday, still hot here across interior sections of the Southwest, though pleasant there closer towards the coast. Again, that comfortable air sticks around here over the next few days. 74 on tap in San Diego. Oceanside at 76. Now Borrego Springs 109, staying below the triple-digit teens, so I think that's a win for this time of year in the desert. So that sun's still going to be blazing, and you still have to take care of yourself in the intense heat. Mount Laguna 76, Ramona 90, though the pattern is going to be shifting with rounds of daily thunderstorms here starting late this week, Friday into the weekend. That's going to be the story across a lot of the Southwest, as high pressure is going to be hanging on right in that sweet spot where we can tap into that tropical moisture. Unfortunately, we could see some flash flooding, especially in the more mountainous terrain. But again, heads up for the deserts and the mountains. Those thunderstorm chances are steadily going to increase here heading into the weekend. 5-day outlook here along the coast. Sunshine and overall pretty comfortable through Wednesday. We will start to see highs rise again, though, by the weekend, and that's when you're going to start to feel the changes in the air, as well as that humidity is going to start to creep back up again. Further inland, sunshine back up to the upper 80s, low 90s as we do head into the weekend. As for the mountains, well, you're going to be staying relatively steady here over the next few days. A little cooler there by Thursday, but not bad by any means. You'll still have plenty of sunshine, though a few clouds will start to roll in towards Friday. As for the deserts, well, temperatures staying relatively steady here through most of the week, though by the weekend you'll start to see a slight tick upwards in the mercury. Plenty of sunshine there by Saturday. For KPBS News, I'm meteorologist Bree Guy.
San Diego's largest and longest running blood drive returned over the weekend, and Hulk smashed its goal. The 48th annual blood drive at Comic-Con concluded yesterday. Drive organizers say they exceeded this year's goal by 3,000 pints. Donors received a limited edition Deadpool and Wolverine t-shirts. The San Diego Blood Bank estimates 232,000 lives have been impacted over the drive's 47 years. Lizards are part of San Diego's ecosystem. Has city life caused them to evolve differently? KPBS SciTech reporter Thomas Fudge went lizard hunting with a biologist to find out.
On a warm day in a desert garden at San Diego State, Kinsey Brock is looking for lizards. She carries a long stick with a string lasso at one end to try to snare one. Finally, she does. It's a male.
Interesting fact, lizards and snakes have two penises.
No way.
And they use them both, not at the same time.
Brock is a professor of evolutionary biology at San Diego State, and she's caught a common San Diego lizard called a bluebelly or a fence lizard. She studies reptiles, and her current focus is understanding how they adapt to urban environments.
I think a lot of people's perception is that cities are places that are devoid of nature, and that couldn't be more untrue. Humans and our cities are a part of nature. We are one of the world's most influential ecosystem engineers.
And she adds those ecosystems are only going to expand. Her research has taken her to the Mediterranean region, where cities and towns have been home to lizards for thousands of years. One very common variety there is the wall lizard. International travel has caused that species to be introduced to Southern California.
These wall lizards have been brought from 2 different places in Italy to 2 different places in California. So they're in San Pedro, they're in Los Angeles, but they're also in San Diego County, up near San Marcos.
She says in LA they are doing very well, maybe a little too well if you're into California species conservation. Brock says she has yet to fully investigate the genetic differences between urban and country lizards. She has seen differences in color and body temperature. Urban lizards are more accustomed to humans, therefore less wary of them. And species selection could be related to environmental differences in heat, moisture due to irrigation, and the presence of animals that prey on them.
Bird diversity is greater outside of urban habitat than it is inside urban habitat. Birds like to prey on lizards. So do other small mammals and snakes especially. We tend to find fewer snakes in urban habitat.
Brock, by the way, is also an artist. Being new to SDSU, she's decorating her office. When she traveled to Greece, she saw ancient marble carvings called Cycladic figures. In an ink painting she created and keeps in her office, she gave them the heads of lizards. Thomas Fudge, KPBS News.
Here's a look at what we're working on for tomorrow in the KPBS newsroom on NPR's Morning Edition. With the growing frequency of heat waves, the idea of naming them, just like we do hurricanes, is growing. You can find tonight's stories on our website, kpbs.org. Thank you for joining us. I'm Amita Sharma, and have a great evening.
Major funding for KPBS Evening Edition has been made possible in part by Bill Howe Family of Companies, providing San Diego with plumbing, heating, and air restoration, flood and remodeling services for over 40 years. Call 1-800-BILL-HOWE or visit billhowe.com. And by the Conrad Prebys Foundation, Darlene Marcos Shiley, and by the following. And by viewers like you. Thank you.